Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
And today, we asked the question, what do you do when low-level spells are turned to insta-kill magic?
Jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter. It's a great way to get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So we had a fan ask us about a particular use of a spell, and this could come up for several different spells in the game, and he wanted to know how to handle it.
So, specifically, he mentioned gaseous form used in an arena fight, and he wanted...
Offensively.
He wanted to know, like, since you've got the ability to move through small cracks, if somebody got injured or opened their mouth or whatever have you, could it go inside and then end the spell and essentially explode out of them?
Yes, alien them, spawn them, however you want to say it. Now, we've actually had this happen in previous games where I've allowed characters to do things similar to this against the monsters, but it'd be really brutal doing it to your players.
Yes, well, and the specific situation, he was like, well, this would insta-kill because they were fighting a genie, and he was contemplating do it against a player and just saying you're dead, you're in pieces.
Yeah, what happens if he goes into their head and just reforms? Here's how I think I would handle it during gameplay, and I'm kind of glad this question came up because it's something to ponder and think about. So if it does come up in your game, and there are several different spells that I think would kind of like merit this. Anything where you can kind of go incorporeal and move through things and reform. That got me thinking, well, is there an example of this in any of the books? There kind of is. If you look at any incorporeal monsters, if they stop inside of an object, it actually doesn't really work that way. I'm looking at the Will-O-Wisp. The Will-O-Wisp can move through other creatures and objects as difficult terrain. It takes 5 or a D10 force damage if it ends its turn inside an object. Essentially, you get shunted out of stuff if you kind of hang out in it, is kind of the idea.
As a middle ground, if somebody tried to pull that in my game, I might be like, all right, it might hurt both of you, so how about 3d6 damage, you both take it, and as you become corporal and he's shoving you out of his body, it hurts both of you.
Because magic's involved, I'm kind of going the route with that. Your body just tries, like, if you try and reform in a space that you can't, because in theory you would probably get hurt as well.
Right, and that's why I'm saying they both take damage.
Yeah, so I would use these rules and go, okay, you get shunted out of it, and depending on the size of the creature you're in, like if you actually have to move through 5 foot increments, like every 5 foot you would take like a D10 damage.
Okay,
is kind of probably what I would do.
So I was because of my brain was thinking, oh, you're both medium-sized creatures. That's just where I was at. I was thinking it's gaseous form is a 3rd level spell, so I just resorted that to 3d6. One die.
Oh, actually, that's an excellent way of doing it as well, right? So there are 2 different ways of having the same thing. But what I would add to that, if it's someone using it offensively, I would go, okay, well, also make an attack with whatever your normal attack mode is. And it's an auto hit, right? So to the thing that you're exploding out of, you're going to do your normal damage plus that die 10. If you roll 20, you crit. You can't miss.
Right.
So that we're only dropping the die to see if you potentially do even more damage.
Right.
But you're also going to take, whether it's the 3d6 like you said, or the d6 per 5 foot of increment like I said, both of them puts out options for ways to address it in your game.
Right.
And really, like, these are just fast and dirty ways that we came up with on the fly. And as a GM, you're often forced to do that. So it is kind of nice when we think about these things, and as nerds, we always like to, like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens?
You have to push the boundaries. You have to try and see. And since we have the more rules light version of 5th edition, it's open to those type of things. So we don't have what happens with incorporeal situations. 3rd edition probably had rules somewhere that, no, this happens, this is exactly what you do.
Yeah, it's far more specific.
So in this situation, yes, it's gonna come to a DM's call. In my case, you can use the example that's written here. It hurts the creature inside, not the outside. And I would say, well, yeah, they both get hurt. It makes the most sense.
Yes. There's also I'm sure under the teleportation spell there might be rules as far as what happens if you teleport in things, because in previous editions of the game, teleporting wasn't automatic. And I don't think it is in this one either. There's a chances for your teleport spell to go awry. So what happens if you get teleported into a thing or a place that you shouldn't be?
Off target. You and your group appear a random distance away. Mishap. Takes 3d10 force damage, and the DM rolls on the table to see where you wind up. Yeah.
So right there, you could be like, oh, all right, you could model that spell if you wanted to go, 3d10 force damage, and you both take it. Or you could do the part where I said, while you're using it offensively, use one of your offensive abilities in addition to that. Make a roll. Did you get a crit? You can't really miss. Mm-hmm. So there's some different ways to add interesting outcomes to the game and have it do something, but not go auto kill. Let's face it, real world logic doesn't really work in tabletop fantasy role playing games very well, especially Dungeons and Dragons, because it's not fun, right? Uh-huh. Even other games where you're shooting at people, it's not fun to have your character get shot in the head and just die. Oh, that was great. I spent 2 hours making this character. I guess I'll make another one. And do that again.
And the other thing is while these things are interesting, if you do it all the time, it's going to make the game less fun. It's going to irritate the DM. So these are the kind of things you use sparingly, and when the perfect situation comes up, it becomes humorous and amusing.
Yeah, I mean, something similar came up in one of my games recently where a player wanted to try some shenanigans. Uh-huh. They actually just misread something wrong anyway, and it didn't quite work out for them. Falling under the creative use of things, magical effects, he had a Staff of the Woodlands that he wanted to grow it into a tree inside of a monster. He just missed the part where he actually needed
the fertile soil
to plant the staff into. Otherwise, it would have been kind of a cool idea. And
I remembered that you could plant the staff. I had also forgotten about the fertile soil. I'm like, what is he gonna do? How is Dave gonna roll this? What is this gonna do? Is this gonna be just all right, you take care of it, or is this? I don't know. I was
kind of torn between the rule of cool and going, well, is this really something you can do?
Right.
That's going to automatically work, so you want to reward cool ideas, but at the same time, you don't want your players to be doing certain things all the time, especially if it's an item that they have and they have access and they could do it over and over again. I could auto said, oh yeah, absolutely works. You just blast the tree out of the top of the Kraken's head, and it is totally dead. But it shattered your staff, or the tree explodes as it bursts through it, destroying your staff, which that felt kind of dickish too. So I was like, drop a d20, 15 or better, you got what you need.
It was cool, and I have to go find that gameplay video to
find out if it worked or not. Yeah. So with that, you let us know, how would you handle the abdication of unusual uses of spells in your game? While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can tweet us on Twitter.
So until next time, stay nerdy.